Ready, Shane? All right. Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming. Obviously busy week, and obviously we still have some work to do. But want to thank Wes, Phil, Paul, our front office for all the work to get us here to this point. And obviously want to start by thanking De'Aaron, Kevin, and Jordan for their contributions to us. We all know what De'Aaron's meant to this franchise for the last 7-8 years. Some incredible moments. Kevin, obviously, also a part of the original Beam team and breaking the playoff drought. So wish them the best. Jordan, his time here a little shorter, but great to get to know him. He's going to have a bright future in this league as well. So thank you to them. And on the flip side, we're excited to welcome Zach and Ceedee here. I think Zach's, time in the league speaks for itself. Multi-time All-Star. Just an incredible talent, shot making, athleticism, and somebody who puts his stamp on the court. So we're excited. We'll obviously talk more about Zach later today, I'm sure. So I think that's it for my intro. So let's go.
Yeah, Monty, it's been 40 plus days since Mike Brown was fired, and it's the first time we're getting to talk to you. What went into the decision to not hold a press conference before today, and sort of even that playing into one of the reasons why De'Aaron Fox was uncomfortable moving forward because he felt he was left out in front of to answer some of the media questions?
Yeah, so I'd say at the time, obviously we were struggling as a team. Mike's done some incredible things for this organization, and we all saw what he did the past 2+ years for us. So I have nothing bad to say about Mike. I don't want to come up here and do that. I respect everything he's done. At the same time, we're trying to turn our season around. We're a month out from the trade deadline, and we've got to figure out now with an interim coach how we're going to go turn this thing around. That was the primary focus. I knew I'd come up here and speak to you guys at some point, but that was, it was all hands on deck for that. And so far, we've gotten ourselves back into the mix. So, I think we obviously have some more work to do there. On De'Aaron, I think incredible player. At the same time, we've offered multiple extensions. That's been public. And, in addition to public and private conversations that happened before that decision on the coaching change. So, I think, I'll speak more on that, but, for us, it became clear that there was no pathway there for a long-term agreement. And so that's also why we're here today.
Monty, I would just like to, say this. I'll ask this question, because yes, it's been way out since December 28th, since we spoke. Since the firing of Mike Brown, many of us who was in that gym, spoke to him. And then the next thing you know, he's going to the airport. He gets a message that he's been, he's separated, from his organization. As far as full respect, due respect, why did it take so long for you to come out and just say, hey, this is what we did and this is why we did it and we're moving on? Why did it take that long?
Yeah, I think as I just answered there, we were focused on the team at that point and turning the season around, and that was at that time that was what we were focused on.
And it wasn't in the best interest of the media, to get some type of feedback.
Yeah,
1 or 2 days after.
Understand. From where you're coming from.
Next question.
Monty, how was Fox consulted at all or talked to, or any of the players talked to at all about the decision to move on from Mike? And do you feel that had an impact on ultimately an agreement not being able to be made or a separation happening between the organization and De'Aaron?
No, De'Aaron had nothing to do with the decision on the coaching change. No player did. That was the decision that I made, that the organization, as we discussed, obviously came to, but no players, no.
Mike was the first winning coach here in quite a long time, and you guys understood how a five-game losing streak at the time of the fire. Can you just explain the timing of it, particularly after he was given an extension, and why it seemed like he had such a short leash?
Yeah, obviously we had, I think, high expectations coming into the season, for a variety of reasons. We did start off with some success, but heading into December, started hitting a skid, and then I think ultimately, as we're trying to figure out ways to turn the season around, a lot of different things were discussed, but ultimately the 5-game losing streak at home and the Detroit loss, the next day, as we talked through it, that was we felt we had a season that could be better, and that was the choice we made at that time. That was the thing that that we could push to, and so far I think we've had some success there, but those were the main factors that were going in at the time, and the higher expectations things are, the more we expect of ourselves.
Hi, Monty. On the De'Aaron front, you guys obviously make a choice to do it now versus the summer. I just wonder, from the group standpoint, when did that start to become more real, and what was your calculus on, that idea that do we ride this out and see how the rest of the year goes? Market-wise, what kind of intel and information and insight can you share about, doing it now versus doing it later?
Yeah. I mean, really, I think anytime, a player of that caliber, you get closer to the end of the contract, we've offered extensions, as we talked about. Anytime there's a transaction window, we revisit, how do we handle this? And I think at this point, with, a year and a half left, we decided, with the public and private indications we were getting, that this was the time to at least explore the market. At the same time, I think we got, a return we're excited about, and so that's why we pulled the trigger.
Monty, Monty, during media day, I specifically asked you about roster balance, specifically with length. You pointed to McDaniels and Len as 2 players that provided length. McDaniels, of course, didn't make it at training camp. Len has had multiple DNPs, isn't getting significant minutes, as you would say. Do you still have a plan to address the length issues that you guys have within this roster imbalance?
Yeah, certainly, something we're looking to do.
Can I ask how? Through the trade, through anything?
Well, we obviously, with the trade deadline's coming up, that's one option, and we'll continue to look at it going forward.
Sean?
Hey, Monty, you've seen obviously storylines and just narratives that are out there. Is there any kind of things that are out there that you wish people didn't know, or maybe might be a misconception or anything about maybe what has happened over these past few weeks and months?
I would say nothing more that I haven't addressed so far.
And just another one, just how unfathomable, I guess, in your mind is it that, someone who mentioned the extension for Mike, and then obviously wanting the extension for De'Aaron, and then, you're about 6-7 months from some of those conversations, and then both of those guys are gone. Is that completely something that's uncharted territory for you in terms of what you had felt going forward at those times?
Yeah, certainly, coming off the last 2 seasons and the decision to extend Mike, we did not envision that this is how the season would go, but all we can do is, continue to deal with the information we're getting and make the best decision in each moment. Obviously in hindsight, we maybe would have done some things differently, but we don't have the benefit of hindsight at the time.
Hey, Monty, after moving on for Mike, what was the decision process like for figuring out who was going to be interim, and what eventually made you settle on Doug?
Yeah, I think with, obviously we have a lot of qualified coaches on our staff, but Doug in particular, his, not just being a former player, but a former Sacramento King, and his connection to us as an organization. I think a lot of what we've seen from Doug so far is what we hope for, and just his ability to lead these guys and, give a different perspective. So he had that unique combination. I think that was ultimately the deciding factor.
Monty, you guys have been playing some good basketball before the road trip, and then this De'Aaron Fox stuff happens then. Were there more conversations with Rich Paul in the lead up to the road trip that made you feel like, okay, we have to pounce now and make this deal? And why was the timing now?
Yeah, I don't want to get into maybe those private conversations. I will say that conversations have been had, throughout, and even more so before, dating back to the summer and the early part of the season. Obviously the deadline is just the time that these things end up happening. And so, as I said with Sam's question, it's just each transaction window we kind of have to decide, what are we trying to do? And, you know, for the first time, we did decide to explore the market there.
I guess along those lines, De'Aaron has said multiple times that he wanted to retire here. He goes into the season not signing the extension, and then there's reports that you and Wes met with Rich Paul, and then, you know, the report a few weeks ago that you guys were open to trading him. Just from your point of view, where do you feel like things kind of went wrong or just ended the way they did?
Yeah, I think obviously, you know, the season hasn't gone as we all hoped. That's part of it. You know, at the same time, I think, you know, we did explore ways to have De'Aaron stay here, and it was made clear that wasn't gonna happen, so we moved on.
Monty, in regards to Mike, was it simply just wanting a new voice? Or were there specific things you can share that he wasn't doing that maybe you guys were looking for him to do? Like, what's maybe a little more insight into like the reason that you guys weren't happy with him anymore?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think it was just the results, you know, of the season, and you know, specifically the way that you know, we played in that homestand. You know, we felt we needed to do something. That was, you know, one of the options that we had been discussing in the days leading up, and, you know, like I said, the way ultimately that the last couple games of that homestand went solidified that.
Monty, can you say definitively whose call it was to fire Mike?
Yeah, mine.
Monty, can you, within reason of what you can share with negotiations, how difficult was it with San Antonio specifically trying to work out the deal, knowing that was Fox's ideal location of where he wanted to end up, trying to get as much return as you possibly could for a player who's obviously been the face of the franchise for so long?
Yeah, I would say, you know, certainly anytime a player of that caliber, you know, is in the market, and you know, also the way that it was very public, yeah, it made for a unique market. But I also think, you know, our group did a great job of cultivating a market to ultimately get what we wanted in return. We were not going to settle for less than we wanted, and so when we got that, we made the deal.
Monty, 2 years ago, you won Executive of the Year. Do you think from that moment to where we are today that you've done everything in your power to provide the support for whether it be Mike Brown or De'Aaron Fox on the court with players to make this thing work? And going forward, Zach LaVine is going to face the same issue that De'Aaron did of the length and athleticism at the wings. Is there a way to address some of those issues now?
Yeah, I would say two things, James. One is, you know, from where we started to where we are, you know, I think we've had a lot of success. You know, we're in our third straight winning season, you know, after whatever it was, 15, 16 without. At the same time, yeah, we haven't won enough for our expectations as they've gone up following, you know, our playoff year, and ultimately that all falls on me. And so, you know, I'm tasked with getting us to the playoffs, and that's what I keep trying to do. Up to you guys, how good that's been.
Kind of along those lines, I guess, this might take me a good minute to get through, just wondering how you view this going forward. You talked about not seeing a pathway long-term with Fox, and here you are getting ultimately what I would imagine in your mind is the best deal that you could possibly get for him. Does this feel like a step back from the vision that you had? Does this feel all that removed from maybe the pathway that you wanted, and just kind of how that relates to competition going forward in terms of maybe what you feel this team is capable of?
Yeah, certainly not linear. How we've, you know, gotten there never is. You know, I think following the 23 season, you know, we had hopes that the core could, you know, continue to ascend. Obviously, at this point, we've you know, gone in a different direction. At the same time, Zach is an incredible player. I think we have a lot of talent on this team. The West is tough, but we're competing with some of the best teams in that conference. You know, on the flip side, this is one of the first times, you know, in my career that I've had plus first-round picks. You know, and we got some very high-value picks in return, in addition to a really good player, and so that's just going to give us more opportunities down the road to continue to improve this team and get where we want to go.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Monty.
Thank you.